Hello, welcome to the Villages, Florida. My name is David. I'm a realtor with Florida Realty Investments, and every week we take an in-depth look at the Central Florida real estate market, specifically the villages on this channel. If you watch this show, you will have a very good idea both as to the differences between the different regions of the villages, as well as long-term trends in prices, price per square foot, how long homes are staying on the market. Pretty much anything you would want to know, you can find out by watching this show. Couple of things to note. First, all of this information is drawn from the MLS, the Multiple Listing Service. The real estate market here in the villages is very different from what you might be used to. We have two separate real estate marketplaces here. The MLS, which is similar to what you find in the rest of the country, and the VLS, which is the village's own internal real estate network. This is the only marketplace on which you will find new homes, but pre-owned homes are listed both on VLS and on MLS. So that means that if you are a seller, you need to decide if you're going to list your home on VLS or on MLS. And if you're a buyer, you really need to ensure that you're seeing both VLS and MLS listings. They are not duplicated, and if you don't see properties on either marketplace, you will not be seeing everything for sale here. The MLS information that I'm giving you has the only criteria being active listing in the villages. I've had some comments on the YouTube channel that my listing numbers differ from others. I can tell you that I pull this on Monday morning every week. Possibly somebody pulling it an hour before or an hour later would get different information. Uh, Two more things. First, if you find this information valuable, please consider liking or subscribing to the channel. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. And if you have any questions, you can reach me at either DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or through the website DavidisinFlorida.com. If you're a buyer and you're trying to determine what a good price would be for a home that you're interested in or an area that you're interested in, or you're a seller and you're trying to determine the maximum price you can realize in a reasonable period of time, please reach out to me at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or through the website at DavidisinFlorida.com. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at what's happening this week. We start by taking a look at the yield on the US 10-year note. The mortgage rate most closely tracks this interest rate, usually about 3 percentage points higher, and we're between 7.25 and 7.5 right now on the 30-year based on these yields. Keep your eye on this market. We have the pressure lower from it being an election year against the pressure higher, which is the amount of borrowing that we're doing. I'm going to start by showing you the location of the villages. The map you're looking at is showing you a dot representing every active listing in the villages currently on the MLS. The size of the circle represents the size of the home, and the color of the circle represents its price per square foot. The larger the circle, the larger the home. The lighter the circle, the more expensive per square foot. So if you see a large dark circle, that would represent a larger home at a lower price per square foot. And if you see a small bright circle, that would represent a smaller home at a more expensive price per square foot. It's interesting and hopefully illustrates the point of this analysis when you compare these two maps. The first is the one that I described earlier, which is the price per square foot representing the color. And if you compare it to this map, which is the exact same information, except instead of price per square foot, it's the actual asking price, you can see that being able to analyze by price per square foot really helps you narrow in on properties that may be a deal. So now you have some understanding as to what you're looking at. I'm going to show you how I've broken the villages down geographically. I've divided it into 4 areas. First is the area I'm calling the north, which is everything south of 42 and north of Highway 466. Second, the area I'm calling the mid-north, everything south of 466 but north of 466A. Keep in mind, these are prices per square foot and sizes on these maps. The third area is the area I'm calling the Mid-South, everything south of 466A and north of 44. And finally, the area that I'm calling the South, which is everything south of Highway 44. I'm going to show you information about the different regions so that you can compare how prices compare, how sizes compare, prices per square foot between these different regions. So hang with me, we'll get to it in a moment. Before we get to the villages specifically, I thought it might be interesting to take a look at this chart, which I discovered recently. We're looking at inventory in the South, and this goes back to the early 70s. Right now, you can see that it certainly appears as if a bubble might be forming. We have more homes for sale currently than we had at the depths of the financial crisis in '08. Keep in mind, this is not the villages. This is the South generally. The villages is doing a lot better, as I'll show you now. So now let's orient ourselves by taking a look at a long-term chart showing the number of active listings on the MLS. Currently this week there are 470 active listings, down slightly from the 477 of last week and a lot higher than the 331 active listings of the same week a year ago. Currently, prices in the villages range from just under 152,000, that was almost 240, which is a 37% reduction. The most expensive home in the village is currently 2,950,000, which is the same price at which it was originally listed. We don't show this chart every week, but I think it is worth mentioning that this week is the worst that we've seen in terms of homes staying on the market. The median time on the market for all listings on the MLS this week is 62 days. Last week it was 60 days. A year ago it was 54 days. This graph is not smooth. These are actual data points, and you can see that 62 days on the market is the longest that we've seen since we started doing this. And over the last 2 months, the number of days on the market has increased from about 40 to 60. We always include this graph. It's probably the first question we get asked. This is the median listing price per square foot for all active MLS listings. This week, $259.67 a foot. Last week, it was $259.80. A year ago, it was $257.89. The last year has seen very little movement up or down in the median list price here in the villages. So let's now dive into the details of how things look this week. Here we're looking at data for all MLS listings. The bottom left is showing you how many listings are available at each price point, and the bottom right graphic is showing you how many listings are available at each size point. You can see that for the villages as a whole, there are 470 active listings, ranging in size from 875 square feet to 4,216 square feet, ranging in price from 152,000 to 2,950,000, and ranging in price per foot from $138 a square foot to $789 a square foot, although the median price for the villages is $260 a square foot. Now let's compare the different regions. Here we've broken the north out separately. You can see that there are currently 216 active listings. They range in size from 875 square feet to 2,986 square feet. Price per square foot ranges from 138 to 448, and the price in the north ranges from 152,000 to 1,000,003. Once again, the number of properties by price on the left, and the number of properties by size on the right. This is the mid-north, which is everything south of 466 and north of 466A. 141 active listings. Sizes range from 1,100 to 4,200 square feet, and prices for homes in the mid-north range from 265,000 to just under 1,000,003. Price per square foot ranges from under 200 to over $600 a square foot. This is the mid-south, everything south of 466A and north of Highway 44. Prices for the homes in this area range from 300,000 to just under 3 million, and the sizes range from 1,156 square feet to almost 4,000 square feet. And this is the south. Once again, these are all properties that are south of Highway 44. 113 currently active, ranging in price from 235,000 to just under 3 million. Price per square foot in the south ranges from 210 a square foot to almost $800 a square foot. Now we come to one of the charts that we think is the most interesting. This is tracking the number of new listings and the number of homes going pending on a week by week basis. You can see this week there were 25 new listings and 47 homes went pending, compared to last week when there were 46 new listings and 33 homes going pending, and last year when there were 36 new listings and 29 homes going pending. Interesting to note that this year, first out of the last three, where not only have pending sales exceeded new listings, but they've almost been twice as many of them. And that gives rise to this encouraging graph for sellers anyway. This is representing the difference between new listings and homes going pending. This week, as I said, it was a positive 22 more homes went pending than were listed. Last week, 13 more homes were listed, and last year, 7 more homes were listed. This is the third best reading we've seen on a weekly basis in terms of supply leaving the market. Buyers are going to hope that this is a short-term blip. Sellers can take encouragement from the fact that buyers are still stepping up when they find properties they like here. So let's take a more in-depth look at the homes that went pending last week. Last week, they went pending at a median price of 268.32, which was higher than the 264.92 of the week before, and higher than the 258.55 of a year before. The graph is showing you a 4-week average, but certainly the numbers do look encouraging for sellers. Prices are holding for now. This is the other side of the coin, perhaps more encouraging for buyers. This is the price change for the homes that went pending last week, representing the change from the original list price. Last week, a 5.71% median reduction. The week before, a 5.47% reduction. But this is vastly improved from the 7% median reduction the same week a year ago. Another good data point for sellers, this is the median time on the market for the homes that went pending last week. The graph is a 4-week average. The numbers are actual data points. Last week, the median time on the market for the homes going pending was 26 days, which is about half the period of time for the previous week of 51 days, and very much improved from the 43 days of the same week a year ago. Now let's look at sales. These are properties that sold and closed last week, numbering 32, previous week 30, previous year 25. Prices for the homes that closed ranged from 170,000, that was originally only 169, to a home that closed for 969, that was originally 1,049,000. This represents a 7% discount. We keep track of the median price per square foot on the homes that closed last week, improving to $252 a foot from $239 a foot for the previous week, and compared to $247 a foot for the same week a year ago. The trend on this data is still down, but for sellers, it's encouraging seeing prints above the trend line. And perhaps some encouragement for buyers. This represents the median time on the market for the homes that closed last week. Last week, 41 days, the median time, compared to 33 days the previous week, and almost as bad as the 43 days on the market for the homes that closed a year ago. And let's take a look at all listings once more, and we finish with some good news for buyers and bad news for sellers. The percentage of sellers that have reduced their asking price from the original listing price, last week only 51.5% had. This week, 53% had. Even though it's quite a jump from last week, it's still better than the 58% who had reduced their asking price the same week a year ago. And we finish with some good news for sellers. Even though the number of listings that have decreased their asking price is increasing, the amount of the decrease is not increasing. This week, a 4.26% median reduction compared to a 4.39% median reduction the previous week, and also improved from the 4.82% median reduction that was being offered for all listings a year ago. That is this week's look at the Village's real estate market. If you're a buyer, please consider consulting with us. We'll be happy to advise you as to where you could find a deal or what the best deal in a specific neighborhood might be. If you're a seller, we'll help you justify the highest reasonable asking price that you can. But in either case, we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me either at DavidisinFlorida@gmail.com or at DavidisinFlorida.com. Be happy to answer any questions you have about real estate or life in the villages itself. I hope to hear from you. Take care.